Okay, good morning, everyone. I wanted to do something a little bit different this morning for our call. I've got a book. I'm not sure if you do have something like this at home where you are, but I have various notebooks actually. This is my personal notebook, kind of like a journal, if you will, but for very personal thoughts and musings. This is like my business journal. And within it, I write down notes of things that I'm learning as time goes on. Sometimes it's preparation notes for meetings or conversations that I've had with people, or sometimes it's things that I've read that have inspired me and I've written it down. I wanted to share a couple of thoughts from this journal today that I think will be helpful. And they kind of relate. The first is on one page here, I've got no matter what at the top of the page, no matter what. Have you ever been confronted with the need to make a no matter what decision? What do they look like? How hard are they to make? Are they tough? I find them really hard to make, because sometimes I want to make no matter what decisions. I recognize in order to move forward in a particular aspect of my life or business, I need to be 100% committed. It needs to be no matter what. But that's a scary commitment to make, isn't it? And I wrote down here 3 reasons why we don't make no matter what decisions. I want you to think about your own business right now, where it's at, where you want it to be, and if making different decisions, because a no matter what decision is really, it's really seated in a heavy sense of commitment, isn't it? Yeah, and no turning back. It's a full-on commitment. If you were to make some no matter what decisions to your business, one, what would those decisions look like? And where would they take your business if you made them? Any thoughts? I'm going to put 3 things to you in regards to these no matter what decisions, why we don't make them. The first is, why is it so hard to decide? Well, not being able to relinquish the alternative stands in our way. So if you've got, for example, in your mind, a no matter what decision that you need to make, but you haven't for your business, one reason that could hold you back is the appeal of the alternative. And the appeal of the alternative is often comfort, isn't it? It's our comfort zone. In many instances, holds us back from relinquishing, the uncomfortable or the pleasant, the comfortable, and moving into a no matter what state of mind. Because more often than not, making a no matter what decision will require sacrifice. It will require discipline. It will require something of us that will take us out of our comfort zone. And I'm not sure where you're at during this quarantining phase, which is dragging out far longer than what I originally anticipated. But are your personal habits getting better or worse during the quarantine? How are you doing on that front? So the first one is, we're not always able to relinquish the alternative. And often we know what the alternative is because it's where and how we spend our time. That's where it's often found. The other reason is we're often dependent on the opinions of others. Sometimes when we make a no matter what decision, we're going to face opposition to our opinion, to our commitment. And what do we do then when opposition comes? Are we going to give in? Are we going to get persuaded, dissuaded to go a different way? What are we going to do? The third one I think is a really good one. It must be right versus wrong instead of good, better, best. Sometimes we hold back from making a no matter what decision because we believe it has to be the perfect decision. It has to be absolutely and totally right in order for me to invest myself 100% in it. Then it's a no matter what decision. And because we can't often get to that point of absolution, we fall back and we don't make a commitment at all, because that falls into the environment or space of perfectionism or all or nothing thinking. If it isn't absolutely, totally 100% right, then I can't be all or nothing 100% totally committed to it. So I won't make any decision at all. And I'll sit with the alternatives, which may be a host of other decisions which are less than valuable. Well, what if we judged it in the context of good, better, or best? How would we be able to make the decision then? I find when I put my no matter what decisions into good, better, and best, then all of a sudden, when I'm not dealing with perfection, it's easier for me to make a commitment that is strong, robust. I can relinquish the alternative. I can let go of my concerns of other people's opinions, and I can move forward with a strong, devoted commitment to my decision. That really helps. So I want to go from there and segue from that, inviting everyone on the call today to consider what decisions they need to make in order to build their businesses more effectively. In what way can I reach out and be more devoted to my own cause in Nikan in a more effective, meaningful way? Hopefully that review and reflection on no matter what decisions helps a little bit. I want to segue now onto a subject of time management. One subject or one question that's come up to me frequently, and especially over the recent past, because I've had two big announcements, I guess, from the Woodward household over the past month. One is I've just published a book, and the other is my wife and I are expecting baby number 8. And so people have been asking me, how do you fit it all in? How do you get everything done? So I want to talk about that question, because I've got the same 24 hours in a day as everyone else. But if we use a few particular techniques, we will be able to find that we may be able to be a bit more effective in the way that we spend our time and get things moving forward in a more constructive way. Because yes, I've written a book. Yes, that means I've got some interviews that pop up every now and then, and I do some podcasts and have some fun in that space. But it certainly doesn't detract me from my number one business priority, which is my heart and soul, Nikan. So how do I manage to, and for me, writing is a hobby in the same way that someone plays golf or tennis or goes running or does yoga or what have you. I'm not a physical activity kind of person. I wish I was, but I do love to use my mind, and I love to write and create and draw and paint and play music and all that kind of stuff. So things with my hands and my mind is where I go to relax and wind down. I just channeled it and focused it a little differently with the book. So I want to talk about some things that have helped me in managing my time so that I can keep my priorities front and center, but also get the balance with all of the different hats that I have on, all the different roles that I play. How do I get to do it all, but do it effectively? And the critical thing is, well, you don't get to do it all, do you? You've got to be selective. So I'm going to start here with 10 different things. I can see some people are making notes. Great. If not, it is being recorded. We can listen again and make notes afterwards. But this subject has come back to me a couple of times. One, out of curiosity with how I manage my time in light of writing a book, and having baby number 8, having a wife called Kim certainly makes a difference as well, because she is awesome when it comes to time management and prioritizing and helping me with that. So having a soulmate like her certainly makes a difference. But it's also come out in some of my coaching and one-on-ones that I'm doing with some of my teammates in regards to how are they moving forward. And some of them are struggling with their time management responsibilities, or their time and their responsibilities. So here are some points. Start your day early and create some good habits. I think that's really important. Starting our day, how we start our day, and I said this to Kim just yesterday, how I start my day significantly impacts the rest of the day. If I don't start strong, it influences the rest of my day. And I'm not suggesting that you get up at 5 a.m. and go for a 1 hour run, you know, or anything crazy like that, or do yoga and meditation for 2.5 hours before you get up and, you know, go through your regular routine. What I am saying is, make sure that you start your day strong. Start it right. Start it right. And you'll know what right looks like for you. For me, I've just recently recommitted to how I start my day. I used to get up early on a regular basis. And early for me was between 6 and 6:30. Yeah. And that helped me because it was a little bit of quiet time before my children would be waking up, depending on their ages. That has fluctuated with time. As time has gone on over the last couple of years, I've gotten out of that routine. So I share that perhaps as a reassurance that, you know, sometimes we might fall out, but we can get back in. Yeah. But I've made that recommitment to starting my day strong. Kim, however, just for comparison, is not a morning person. And if she was to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and begin with some study and some meditation, which is what I like to do, I like to have a little bit of time early, quiet to myself, where I can pray and study and reflect and meditate and just have that quiet time. That really helps me make commitments inwardly to myself as to how I'm going to devote myself to the day. And that just really helps me. For Kim, she's never been a morning person, and she can't do that first thing at an early hour. But that's not a criticism to her. No two people are the same. Like I said, each of us knows what a strong morning start looks like. When she gets going, boy, she gets going, but she gets going a little bit later. Each of us have a slightly different body clock, and we know what works best for us. What I would say is this: tune into yourself, know what your best looks like, and don't make excuses. Yeah, I know my best is getting up in the morning. When I've tried to do it Kim's way, I've kind of made excuses and it hasn't worked out for me. What's best for me is getting up a little bit early and doing that study routine in the quiet of the morning hours. Rather than use to-do lists, this is point number 2, use next action items, next actions lists. Just changing the vernacular on that can actually be something really, really critical. Rather than writing out a to-do and then writing out your list, write next actions. I think most of us use to-do lists in some way, shape, or form, right? We might write a couple of reminders on our laptop or on our phone. We might use some sticky notes or a piece of paper or a scrapbook, or we might stick something on the fridge. We might have a planner. We might have a journal, whatever it might be. But we'll write down lists to remind ourselves. But rather than call it a to-do list, call it next actions. This is just a little trick. And it's potent because what it tends to do for us is prioritize. When I write to do, I write in random order all the things that I think I've got to do today. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to start with my priorities. And so what happens is some of the most important things may get kicked to the end of the day, or maybe some of the unpleasant things may get kicked to later on because I don't like doing them. So I'll do it later. And then I just have this awkward uncomfortableness that sits with me until I get it done. Yeah. But if I change it to next actions, then my conscience and my mind and heart kind of work together for me to start to prioritize what I should be doing next. And I like that because, as it's been said, we shouldn't prioritize our to-do lists. What we need to do, what's on our, what's the saying? I've forgotten the saying. I'm gonna have to come back to that saying, forgive me. But we need to prioritize what matters most. And don't let the things that matter least be at the mercy of the things. Don't let the things that matter most. I'm getting all my sayings muddled up today. We need to prioritize our activities, and we should not let the things that matter most be at the mercy of the things that matter least. So changing it to next actions helps us to prioritize the things that matter most and put them front and center. Because too often on our to-do lists, we tend to go through the things that matter least first to give us a false sense of achievement and progress. And at the end of the day, the things that matter most are left undone, and they are still on the list waiting to get done. So let's change that to next actions. Point number 3, avoid mess. If you're going to work in a defined space, which quarantining has required of us, and of course, working from home requires of us anyway, keep it tidy, keep it clean, keep it organized. I think that that makes a big difference. And also, it's hard to work if my mind is messing too. And so I do spend time each day. I'm kind of going to go through some of the things that I do that help. I do spend time each day decluttering the mess in my mind. I need to do that because there's a lot going on in my head, because I have a lot on my plate. I've got a lot of children. I have a pregnant wife. I have a busy schedule. I've got lots of appointments on my calendar. I want to make sure that I prioritize the most important things, that I don't burn out, that I look after myself, my own mental health, and I do all the right things to take care of me as well as my family and as well as my business. So I do need to clear my own head and balance my own heart and manage my own emotional center so that I can have no mess in here, so that I can have and no mess out there in order to be truly effective. When I get those two balanced, I do find my creative juices really start to get firing up, and that really does help. So try to clear your mind and heart. Take time out to do that. I think that really does help make a difference. Also in identifying your priorities too. Take that time out just to sit, meditate, reflect, and don't think of it as wasted time. And please don't say, I don't have time to do it. If you don't have time to do it, to me, it's part of the planning process. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And you've got to be able to take time out just to clear your mind and heart and get to a state of oneness with yourself. Yeah. So that you can allow that conduit of creativity, of energy, of insight, of inspiration to come and flow and to mean something and to contribute to your business, to give you clarity on your priorities, to help you understand which is the next best step to take. These things I think are very, very important. There was an example once given. In fact, yeah, I've never been an archer. I've always loved the thought of being an archer, firing off those arrows to a target and hitting a target. It looks like a wonderful amount of fun. I've had play ones when I was a kid, but I'm not sure if you've ever had these toy ones as a young child, these little bows and arrows with the little suction caps on the end, right? But it'd be nice and really tight, that string on the archer's bow. Yeah, and I'll use a professional one as a better example because this works in real terms. If the archer's bow, if the string on the archer's bow is always tightly strung, eventually it loses its spring and it fails in its function. So on a regular basis, the archer needs to unstring his bow and relax the string so that it can maintain its maximum potency in its elasticity and its spring. We are the same. If we are always tightly strung, we will eventually lose our spring and we will lose our strength. So we need to take time on a regular basis to unstring our emotional and mental bows so that we can keep our maximum strength. Yeah. So please don't misinterpret that critical time in our day where we need to be quiet, where we need to be still. where we can listen to ourselves intuitively and then move out from there. That's very, very important. So yes, we talk about clearing the physical mess, the tangible mess that may be around us. But we've got to take time to clear the mess that may be going on in here. So number 4, expect interruptions. We can have our schedule planned out, mapped out, but we are going to get interruptions. We've got to plan for that, anticipate it, and have some flexibility around that. I think that's quite a straightforward point. Concentrate selectively. I'm going to read this out here. Identify specific tasks and give them your undivided attention. And do it for a set period of time. Don't try to be on form or focused nonstop. You'll burn out. It kind of ties in with my previous comments, doesn't it, about unstringing the bow. We need to make sure that we focus for fixed periods of time, then take breaks. That's really, really critical. Be sure to build into our time management schedule time for breaks, time for mindfulness, time for rest, time for meditation and reflection, and time where we turn things off and we're still. It's incredible that, isn't it? That to be more productive, we need to build into our schedule times where we do nothing. But what we're doing with that nothingness is actually really, really important. We've got to have a time management system. There are people that get more done in a day than others, without a doubt. And the reason for that is they learn to prioritize their time. They learn to control time and make it work to their advantage. And they do the things that matter most, and they sacrifice the things that are not important. And that comes down to, again, also what we talked about at the beginning of the call, which is they've also made some no matter what decisions. Can you imagine combining the two here that we're talking about? I sit down, I reflect on my business, I take some time out, and I get some clarity, some inspiration as to where my business needs to go. I make a no matter what decision. I relinquish the alternatives. I relinquish, along with that, my devotion to other people's opinions. And along with that, I recognize that it's not a matter of being perfect. It's simply a choice between good, better, and best. And today, I have made the best decisions for my business, and I'm keeping them. No matter what, I'm making this count. And then I combine these skills of prioritizing, of managing and mastering the first moments of my day to make sure that they count, because first impressions count. It's interesting this. Have you ever thought of it in this way? Just as a quick digression back to that first point. It takes less than a few seconds, just a few seconds, to make a first impression. We've heard this a lot, haven't we? When we're meeting other people, it takes just a few seconds to make a first impression, and those impressions stick, and they tend to last for a long time. Have you noticed, though, that it also happens with films? When you're watching a movie, if it doesn't grab you in the first few minutes, what do you do? What do you think about the film? Have you ever turned a movie off because the first few minutes haven't grabbed you? I've done that plenty of times. I've gone, yeah, bad choice. I'm going to watch something else. And I flick it off, especially in this day where we've got so many choices to make. But have you noticed as well that we also do that with our days? That we can start a day out badly, and then we can treat it like a poor start to a film and go, okay, this day's gone, so I'll treat it as I will. I'll do whatever with it. And then I abuse the day. I mistreat it. And I make bad choices. I don't prioritize my time. I don't invest myself in my goals and aspirations. I don't provide my best self to my circumstances or situations. I don't fully show up because I've already relinquished the day. At the front end of the day, I didn't start strong, and subconsciously I surrendered the rest of it because it's all tagged into the day. So it really matters. It really does matter how we start the day. Start as you mean to go on. If you start out strong and give a strong first impression to yourself, to how you show up to the day, it will impact the choices you make later on. So I keep coming back to that because I think that's really important. Okay, number 7, we've got to, where we can, delegate out. Are there things that you're doing in your day that you don't need to? One, we can prioritize them to the bottom of the list if they're not important. But are there other things, are there things that you're doing in your team that other people in your team could be doing, for example? Are you saying yes to everything when you could be giving someone else a chance to grow? You're trying to be the person for everyone and not necessarily appreciating that someone else in your team could benefit with the chance to step up. And if you delegate it out to them, maybe you could prioritize your time a little better and have a bit more productivity. Let's look at how you can prioritize your time and how you can delegate out. Now, if you can't delegate out, let's say, and I had this example the other day with someone on a coaching call, they're at the front end of their business and they've got a ton of customers. And all of that customer activity requires a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort. And it was frustrating to them. What do you do then? Because we can't delegate out to someone else our customer follow-up. Yeah, because that's personal relationships and what have you. Are there systems or tools that are available that can automate or systemize your activity with your customers? It may involve a little bit of front-end work in uploading content, information, and so on. But are there tools and resources available that you can delegate your time out to that and delegate to technology to make your time more precious and better spent? That's something to consider as well. A couple more points here and we'll wrap up. Number 8, organize in advance. Take some time out at the end of a week to plan your following week. I will always plan out a week in advance. I've got months in advance that are starting to get planned out now, but I'll always plan out at least a week in advance. And every night before I go to bed, I do look at what I've got on the next morning. And I am working right now on trying to be more disciplined in knowing what's going on every point of the day, so that I don't forget and miss out. Because sometimes when I don't organize myself, things fall out of the loop for me and I miss them. So take some time out just to review, reflect, have it written out, and know where things are. Take breaks. We talked about that. The last one, number 10, make spare moments count. And I'll read this out. Take time to nurture your mind and heart. Listen to podcasts when you drive or when you're doing the dishes. Listen to a TED talk instead of a soap opera or something like that. Make that time count. But again, within those spare moments, when we talk about listening to podcasts or TED talks or what have you, again, we've got to build in that time to unstring the bow. Take time to relax, take time out so that you're not always on supercharge, to get the balance. Build into our schedules our priorities with an overarching vision of what we're striving to achieve. Put your priorities front and center. Have them as your next action lists versus simply to-do lists. Critically build in time where you can relax, take time out, clear the mind and heart, and allow for inspiration to come in and work its magic. At the same time, as we talked about, have a strong start to the day. We know what a strong start for us looks like and what it doesn't, okay? So be honest with ourselves, make the strong start count, build in that time throughout the day where we can relax, let go, unstring the bow where we need to so that we can maintain maximum spring, prioritize, delegate what we can, and if we can't delegate out to people, is there technology or tools that I can utilize that can help me delegate that way to them? Because that can work as well to our advantage. There's always ways where we don't have to do everything tangibly, physically ourselves. So I hope this counts. I hope this has helped. Thank you very much for being with us today. And let's go out there, be more productive, be more effective, and make the day count. Thanks very much, everyone, and have a great day. See ya.
Thanks, Ben.